Hello and welcome back to the Respect and another edition of Smackdown Out of 10. We're fresh off the Backlash PLE, but WWE's already preparing for what's next with Saturday night's main event coming up next weekend. So there's a lot going on. We've got words from Trick Williams and Gunther, as well as some big matches, including Carmelo Hayes and Ricky Saints. Let's get straight into it. And after a brief video recapping Backlash, Trick came out to celebrate homecoming shorts at the University of South Carolina. Louis Ortiz and team mascot Cocky accompanied him to the ring, giving a promo that made a lot of locals in the crowd happy, and he also explained the origin of his lemon pepper steppers. Surprisingly, the Miz and Kit Wilson came out to spoil the fun. Yachty said Miz and Wilson were cursed, which inspired Wilson to read some of his slam poetry. Yachty replied with some rhymes, but put Wilson to shame. This started out as a relatively average segment for a hometown hero, but it got worse as it went. The jokes didn't land, and the brawl made the segment even look worse, and Wilson and Miz looked more incompetent than usual. Yachty's inclusion in the Williams story hasn't done much to help him, but it hasn't hurt him either, so at least Trick Williams getting over from his own charisma, and not because he has a celebrity by his side. That led to the match with the Miz challenging Williams to a match, and apparently it was made official because Michael Cole confirmed at the beginning of the commercial. The champ had the upper hand for a moment, but the A-list used some cheap tactics to take control. When Trick Willie regained his momentum, Wilson interfered with a running forearm at ringside. The match lasted through the break and into the next segment. The Miz almost won with a skull-crushing finale, but the champ kicked out. The A-lister attempted to use a kendo stick, but Yachty stole it from him and used it on Wilson. Williams finished the match with his signature trick shot. That wasn't the match wasn't bad, but it's just hard to call it good. It sort of just existed. The crowd loves Williams, and he deserves more than this as a US champion. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. We then got Paige and Brie Bella taking on Julia and Kiana James in a non-title match. Brie and Kiana started over 13s. Bella was getting up a little side, so James made sure to use a power advantage to score the first takedown. Bella and Paige may be the veterans in this showdown, but Julia and James shone a bit by later in this bout, and they were bumping harder and selling more, but whenever they were in control, they also appeared more aggressive than opponents. Paige got the win for her team with a Rampage DDT on James. A decent bout with the possibility of James and Julia having issues and more interest in the match itself. The women's tag division has plenty of competition, but it needs stories to tell, so hopefully we can invest in it a bit more. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. As we then moved on to Cody Rhodes, who came out, set up a table and chairs in the room because he wanted Gunther to come and finally sign his contract. He called out the ring general, and it didn't take him long to appear. Gunther said Rhodes ruined a lot of time and effort to set up a Smackdown deal. He asked Cody to be professional, dress him with respect, and say please. Royce Keys came out and said Gunther won't sign the contract, then he will. He marched the ring and Rhodes handed in the pen. Gunther slid into the ring just in time to stop. Nick Aldis came out and decided to book a number one contenders match between the two. A solid segment to initiate a surprise match later in the show. All three girls did their job, and without taking too much time up. As we then moved on to Carmelo versus Ricky Saints, and earlier in the day, Saints and Hayes had a backstage confrontation that led to them agreeing to this match. Hayes said he was going to humble SmackDown's newcomer. Saints took control of the sneak attack, but Melo was able to regain his footing and get in some offense. This was the first time these two have ever shared a ring in their careers, but they took almost no time to develop a good ring chemistry, which speaks volumes to the both of them. You could tell both of these guys wanted to make a good impression with their performance. They succeeded. Saints played a great antagonist, and Melo had the crowd behind him thanks to his exciting Arsenal moves. Saints was caught by the ref trying to use the ropes of a pin, but Melo got back in by getting away with the same trick to get the win. Overall, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, this was a really fun match. As we then moved on to Damian Priest versus Tana Tonga. This was originally scheduled to be a tag match with Tanner and R-Truth, but Truth wasn't cleared. Tonga appeared to get an early advantage by attacking Priest before he could get his jacket off, but the former world champ didn't let him have the upper hand for too long. The Archer Infamy hit the Razor's Edge after the break, then Tanner turned it into a sleeper with a great counter. This is a pretty physical match with some nice spots, but it felt like they slowed down more than necessary in the second half. Priest picked up the win with a South Heaven clothesline. There was no interference from the MFTs, but Tanner and Solo showed up after the match to attack the winner. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. As we then moved on to Meechin and B-Fab versus Charlotte and Alexa. Cargill accompanied Meechin and B-Fab to the ring so she could give a promo about how she will regain the women's title from Rhea. Charlotte and Alexa cut her off with the old music. There was then a break between the verbal exchange in the match, so it looked like all four women were just standing around during the break, which is always weird. Meechin and Queen started in the ring, and Flair quickly drove her opponent out of the ring to regroup with B-Fab. Meechin, Flair and Bliss all have solid in-ring workers, but B-Fab has so much less experience, it kind of made a noticeable difference when she was legal. The match was a clunky pace and wasn't structured in a way that allowed any of them to look great, but they managed to get in a few good spots, and Cargo ended up causing a DQ when she pulled Bliss out of the ring and attacked her in front of the ref. Flair and Cargo ended up having a showdown once everyone else was taken out, but they didn't get physical. So yeah, overall I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And in our main event, it was the number one contenders match between Gunther and Keys. Gunther's really considered small compared to anyone, but Keys had outsized and outpowered right at the gate, so the ring general began to show some frustration. They had enough time to make this a hard-fought match that helped highlight ways both men are in this position. In some ways, this was a test for Keys, and he passed with flying colours and looking like he belonged in the main event. Sikoa showed up in an attempt to help Keys. When the ref was accidentally taken out, he tried to slide into Keys, but he threw back into Sikoa's face. The momentary distraction allowed Gunther to take control and hit his powerbomb for the win. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I think this was really good, really highlighted Keys, but I think gave Gunther the win that he kind of needed. And overall, Smackdown this week gets a 5 out of 10 from me. It continued its unfortunate trend of mediocre shows, but it had some highlights. Starks v Hayes was one of the best bouts we've seen in the blue band and rates. Both men look great, and the way it ended leaves things open for more encounters down the line. The main event between Gunther and Keys was also a high point, which helped the show have a strong ending. The promo Zayn gave was designed to make it look like a campaign was actually a perfect encapsulation of what WWE needs to change. Hopefully we get back to this stronger than the two main roster shows every week. But yeah, for now, 5 out of 10.
That's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.